Okay, I have the Heffy Doodle Tooth Plush Die and Heart, what is it? And Heart Gift Card Pocket. The Heffy Doodle Heart Gift Card Pocket and Plush Die to make a little tooth pillow or tooth case in case you save your kids' teeth like I do. I'm super creepy. So let's make this just in different colors, but I think it's cute and I personalized it. On the back it says Dex. So let's make another one.
So I have some 6-strand embroidery floss from DMC that I desperately need to organize, but never make the time to. And some Benzie Designs felt. This is 100% wool felt that I happen to have a sensitivity to, and it doesn't stop me from creating. I've got the Tooth Plush Die from Heffy Doodle, and I'm cutting it out of white, like a scrap of white that I had probably left over from Christmas. I can see the candy cane. Once I ran the tooth through the die cutting machine, then I grabbed some pink. I think this is Benzie Designs Glitter and Glass felt. They have like palettes and matching floss. It's a great website to check out. I'm using the Heart Gift Card Pocket Die from the new release to cut out the main portion of this tooth case that we're making. It does smush the felt a lot, but it puffs back up pretty nicely. This set also comes with this scalloped rectangle that fits perfectly on the back side of this gift card pocket. And we're going to use some paper tray ink, like cross stitch dies to personalize our little case here with my daughter's initials. These are my Your Next Stamp die snips. I get questions about how I separate my dies. This is it. I use this and my Dremel. The dies are a tight fit. Super tight. Spoiler alert, it fits. Don't worry. I'm going to take this like turquoise color from that same Glitter and Glass palette from Benzie Design, and I'm going to use that to cut out the scalloped rectangle and these hearts. I don't need all 3 hearts, but they're attached together, so all 3 are getting cut. So this next die is what makes the tooth a stitching die. It basically cuts the holes out of your piece of felt. I did this previously, and I needed to wrap some masking paper around my fingers to remove kind of the excess felt that stayed in my die. You can see the little balls there. You just line it up with the tooth, the outline of the tooth, and run it through your die cutting machine, and it cuts the holes for you. You can also do partial die cutting and leave the top open so that you may stitch around the bottom of the tooth, which leaves a pocket, maybe for some money or for a baby tooth. I decided that I wanted to stitch the entire tooth to the pocket, so I decided to cut out all the holes. I'm also using the crown from the Absolutely Awesome die set. This is the yellow from that felt set, and I usually use it for crowns, as you can tell. But I've got all my pieces here. Now let's do the stitching dies on that turquoise piece. This is me working it out in my brain, thinking face. Sometimes when you have dies and it's a tight fit like this, you have to cut them one at a time. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's not going to fit. It just means the dies don't fit. In this case, I cut each letter one at a time, and it did fit, and it looks good. Sometimes I will test it out on copy paper because it's cheap. So now I'm ready to do some stitching. I'm really only using one color of embroidery floss. This is embroidery floss by DMC, and it's just a white. I have several whites, as you can tell. I also have a collection of tools here on my Spellbinders main attraction. This is some Ging Her scissors. These are my favorite scissors. They're so awesome. They're not cheap. Then some little rainbow tweezers, and I usually have 2 types of needles, okay? I have one here that is sharp that I use to attach things to the felt, and then there's a dull one that I would usually use to maybe stitch those letters. The sharp one, is needed to get that tooth onto the felt. So I use a lot of embroidery floss. This is, if you use a lot, it can get knotty and tie up on you, and that's sometimes frustrating. So I use a long piece of thread, but it's not recommended. I typically tie a double knot at the end, just 2 knots and try to double them up and pull it tight. I'm doing a back stitch. So I'm going to start from behind and go through one hole and then go into the next hole, like so, and then go back through the next hole through the back. I'm trying to explain this in real time and I'm not moving fast enough. Back through there. And then I'm going to actually go back through the hole that I had just previously went through. It's called a back stitch. This is what I chose to do. You could also just keep going around your tooth, but I feel like it uses more thread that way. So this is my conservative way of stitching this tooth onto the piece of felt. Also, make sure that you keep your needle on your thread. Sometimes I like to pull it and then I pull my needle right off my thread. That's not fun either. I do find stitching very relaxing. I tend to cut all my pieces and then go sit in front of the TV and either watch something or watch Tim play video games. When I reach the end of the stitching, I have to tie it off. So, I don't know, is it called that? I'm just making a knot, more knots, 2 more knots in the back, and I just kind of like thread it through and then trim it off after I've pulled the knot tight. I use my fancy tiny scissors to trim it all up. They're so cute too. Now that our tooth is securely fastened to the front part of our pocket that we're creating, it's time to move on to the initials on the back. And I'm doing this exactly the same way, unprofessionally, of course. I'm doing a back stitch starting with the C and ending with the D and tying it off at the end. Some people like to do one letter at a time. I don't have time for that. I gotta do them all and then tie it off. What is it called? Is it called tying it off? It sounds inappropriate. I don't know. This part actually goes by pretty quickly, so if you wanted to mass produce these, you could very easily. I have to say, don't look at the back of my project. It does not look good. But nobody's gonna see that part, right? So now we're going to put everything together. So I took one of the 3 hearts and cut it in half because I didn't want to interrupt the closure that it has. I'm using my Sure Bonder glue gun. Yeah, I'm not stitching this whole thing together. We are definitely going to use some hot glue. We're going to use it on the edges to, just like adhesive, just like if you were using liquid adhesive on paper, and we're going to put the die together just as if it were paper, but it's felt. So I folded back the scored lines and added the adhesive, and then I took the flap and folded it over onto the adhesive. And if you haven't burned your fingers with hot glue, are you even a crafter? Just give it a second, hold it down, and let it cool off, and it's good to go. So I'm doing this exact same thing with the other side. Now, this next part is not necessary, but I really wanted that cute heart to stand out, so I cut it from the turquoise and then cut it in half, and then I'm adding 2 very small dabs of glue on each side of that heart to put the sides on, and it closes up just fine with this amount of thickness. Now this die does come with a face that you'll see on the previous one that I made, but my black felt was really, I don't know how to describe it, like fuzzy, and it wasn't cutting well. So I decided to forego the face for this particular project. I have had that felt for quite a long time. So I'm also adding a good amount of hot glue to the back of my initials here, and we're just going to adhere it down. Now you could also sew this directly on your project if you would like. I chose not to do that. This is just fine. And it opens and closes perfectly. I'm going to use it to keep my daughter's wisdom teeth in. Wisdom teeth are not normally this white. They were cleaned. I cleaned them with some heavy materials. But yeah, I saved them. It's super creepy. She thinks it's creepy too. I know. But, you know, it's just one of those things. It's probably a cuter project for a little kid like Dexter who's about to lose his teeth. You could probably keep this and reuse it for all 20 times that a kid loses their teeth. But I hope you enjoyed my project today. That's it. Find me, find Heffy Doodle on social media. I love interacting with you in the comments, so leave me a comment down below. And until next time.